I think we need to define the word compete, because when you look at the Eastern Conference, I think there are clear-cut favorites in Milwaukee and Philadelphia right now. And then I think there's a handful of teams that are competing for one of those top 4 spots. Yep. I would put Brooklyn ahead with where they sit. I'm curious to see what happens with Boston. Add Indiana in the mix. We'll see what Toronto still looks like, if they move a couple parts, or how their team comes together. But where they sit right now, I would put them right behind there. After that, Orlando, you could add as well, and I'm not sure if I missed anyone.
No, let's not. We don't have
towards
to
the bottom.
Orlando. You're trying to be very nice there, but that's Orlando had a nice season last year, and they won't be much better.
But with that being said, so there's some spots there at the bottom where there's an opening in the Eastern Conference. And so when you match Jimmy Butler with Russell Westbrook, I would be curious, one, to see how their games fit together, because they're two obvious, very bold, dominant guys. But with their competitiveness, with their skill, I think oftentimes we look at Russ and we compare it to what we believe he should be, the potential he should have, how he could play, as opposed to the player that he is. And he is still one of the top 20 players in the league. And so with that all being said, more of where I would hesitate, less about Jimmy and Russ, what's the rest of the team going to look like? Because who are they going to have to give up? I think they have a nice piece in Bam Adebayo. James Johnson is a solid guy. What happens with, is Goran Dragic a part of that? Is Justice Winslow a part of this? So more of it, to me, when you look at the depth of this Miami team, and I think more often than not, there's times we could count Miami out, but because of the way they run things systematically, how Eric Spoelstra coaches, the brains and the moves of Pat Riley, we have confidence in what they could be. However, this would be a whole different look. And how does Russ and the way Russ plays fit into Miami? Where is the push-pull and the balance in that? And so do I believe that they could compete for one of those bottom spots in the East? Potentially, but I also think you would need to see how the rest of the roster is filled out.
I think the pendulum has swung far too far on Russell Westbrook. Listen, there is a point in time when Russell Westbrook was overrated, probably the MVP season. We fell in love with the triple-double, even though Harden arguably had a better year, LeBron arguably had a better year that year. Russ averaged a triple-double, led the NBA in scoring. We loved the loyalty after KD left, got his team to the playoffs, and people were talking about Russ like he's a top 4 player in the league. He was not that. But now people are talking about Russ as if he has no value whatsoever because he's on a 4-year, $171 million contract. That's nonsense. Next season, there will be, Daryl Morey said it and he's right. There's 25 to 30 players in this league that actually matter. For next season, not for the future, not what they will be. Can you impact the playoff race in this coming year? Russ is unquestionably one of them. There's only 4 of those 30 guys that have any chance of being moved before the end of next season. Kevin Love is one, C.J. McCollum is one, Bradley Beal, and Russell Westbrook. He is the best player of those 4. He is the one who right now we know, even on an under-talented roster, can get you to the playoffs. He did that in the West the year before Paul George got there. So would Russell Westbrook and Jimmy Butler be a championship duo? No. But right now, Miami is trying to get back to the playoffs. I think they would have a chance even if they didn't sign Russ with Jimmy Butler there, because they don't have their own draft picks moving forward so much anyway, so they can't tank. If you had Russell Westbrook, I would take it a step further than you. I think they would be right there in contention for that 3rd spot in the East. They can look Boston eye to eye, Indiana eye to eye, Brooklyn until and unless Kevin Durant comes back eye to eye, and say, we've got 2 of the best 20 players in the league. So I don't think Russ is an MVP. And I think that the contract is going to be a bad one in 3 years. But Russell Westbrook is not overpaid next year. And the Miami's always worried about the here and the now and acquiring stars. So I think it would make sense for Miami if they can make the trade work.
But see, I understand your concern with the rest of the team. I'm still focused on these 2 because they have such dynamic personalities, such big personalities. What are you more concerned with, them meshing or the fact that they're 2 ball-dominant players and both need the ball a decent period of time? We saw it with Jimmy Butler in the playoffs last year in order to be successful. That's hard to make work.
Well, Jimmy Butler and what they were trying to do with him offensively in Philadelphia, he wasn't a good fit there. Now, I'm still shocked that Jimmy Butler left Philadelphia because they really had championship aspirations. But for me, Jimmy Butler, he made his decision as far as his career, what he wants. Man, he wants to be by a beach. He wants to live somewhere nice. Like, he ain't trying to win no championships. And if Russ goes there, they ain't got no championship aspirations. They can't get through 4 or 5 series. Russ, as good an athlete he is, averaging a triple-double, why isn't he a better defender than what he is? And will he allow Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley to run the offense? He hadn't shown that he's going to do that. So, yeah, people go the other way as far as criticizing Russ. But as far as, if he is a top 25 player, he is one that I'm not concerned about winning a championship, because I don't believe that the way he plays, and that is not conducive in the playoffs to have been able to get other people involved in the game when the game slows down. How he plays is not championship caliber basketball. So, no, I don't think they're a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference if him and Jimmy Butler decide to go there, because Jimmy Butler went there just to chill and to make money. All right, because he made that. When you leave Philadelphia and they got Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, after the type of leadership that he showed them, like, you know what his decision is about, championships. I believe Russ is about Russ. So now you have those 2 combustible items going forward there. To me, it'd be one of the more interesting stories in the NBA next year, how they do together.
I think it will be interesting. I would take the opposite view, though. So I was covering Chicago when Jimmy Butler came in the league. I know Jimmy. I talked to guys at length that have played with Russ. I think there is a difference between, and I don't think it's right or wrong, actually competing for a championship and the process by which you go about things. And I think Jimmy Butler has issues when guys do not go through the process, the habitual things, the day-to-day of a winning culture. That I believe Miami has. And whether or not you can argue if he should be a guy that should stay in a position where he can win a championship or a title. I think that what drew him to Miami, to Eric Spoelstra, to Pat Riley, was the way in which day by day they go about things.
Yeah, institutional talent.
Yes, and the infrastructure of that. And I believe Russell Westbrook is very much of their attitude, their mentality, how they go about doing their work on a day-to-day basis is a way in which they will gel. How does that translate in a game and on the floor? That's a different question.
And I think Jimmy Butler was a little frustrated with something I think you're frustrated with in Embiid, in that how committed to your nutrition and your weight and your conditioning are you? And what the whole world, basketball world's frustrated with Ben Simmons is, how dedicated are you to getting better? And Jimmy Butler also, I think, wanted to be the man somewhere. Now, if they trade for Russ, there's a bit of a push and pull there. What I would say in defense of Russell Westbrook is, last year, after the first year with Paul George ended so poorly in that first round of the playoffs against Utah, last year, before Paul George got hurt, Russ had handed over the reins to him. Paul George was an MVP candidate. Russ was not taking as many shots. It wasn't until Paul George got hurt that Russ then went back to what he knows, what is natural to him, what is his basketball instinct, which is take over, shoot, dominate the ball. I just don't want to close the book on Russell Westbrook yet. I feel like there's an element of Kirk Cousins with Russ at this point, which is we can't talk about him without mentioning the contract. The contract is the contract, and at some point down the road, it might be an albatross. It's not an albatross right now. He's one of the 20 best players in the league, and he's slightly overpaid. What that means if you're looking for the 2023 season is different than what it means if you're looking for the 2020 season.
The difference between him and Cousins is he was a star before he got the contract. All right? Yes. Cousins has never been a star. All right? And people are upset that he got that type of contract.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.